Okay, so I hope you gathered some stuff. Now what I did was I took my trusty ruler and I took my little calendar that I've chosen to use, and I just measured. I measured what the sheets, pretty much the tallest sheet in here, so the first one, because they cut theirs down so it's all even. So I just kind of wanted to know what this first sheet was so I could kind of gauge. Not the outside cover because it's a little larger, but just the first sheet. So I measured everything, and this way and this way, and then I cut my papers accordingly. Okay, so that's what you need to do, is just measure whatever size book you're making and cut your pages the same. Now this, you have to remember, this is a little different. This is going to be a horizontal stitched book versus a vertically stitched book. I'm going to use it like this. Okay, so that's a little different. Anyway, so I've got my papers. These are all cut. Now these, what I'm going to do is cut these in half, because this is where the stitching is going to go here, and they're going to be folded this way. So they're going to totally work for me. And the back is just, I didn't print on the backs because just having white paper is going to be totally good for me. This is just going to give me some pizzazz and color and yumminess in my book. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these in half. So I wanted to, first though, I need 7 3/4 this way. So, and obviously this is 8 1/2. So what I'm going to do is, at first I'm going to cut off the white parts on these papers. Make sure I've got this nice and even. So I'm going to cut off the white parts. This is a Fiskars, I don't remember which one it's called, but this is the bee's knees, man. This paper cutter is fantastic. And this is 5 pieces of copy paper, but it cuts through, it would cut through 5 pieces of cardstock just as easy. And then at the same time, it also does my chipboard. I've owned this for approximately 6 to 9 months, I'd say, somewhere in there. And I have yet to change the blade. And it still cuts beautifully, just beautifully. I've had no complaints on this thing. And cuts nice and straight. Okay, so let me measure now and see where I'm at and how much more I have to go. So this is 7 3/4. So I'm going to see, okay, can't keep them straight. 7 3/4. Okay, so I'm only taking off 1 line by doing that. So that's what I'm going to do. And it is that simple. Okay. Alright, so there's that paper, and now I'm going to cut it in half after I take off the white edges here. I'm having to work, whoops, I'm having to work around my tripod, so there we go. So not quite as easy. Oh, not quite as easy as one might think. Okay. There we go. There. All right. Now, I'm just going to cut these in half, and without measuring them. I'm just getting myself a little fold on there. So, because now they're not 8.5 anymore. So just to get an eyeball of where that is. Make sure my sheets are nice and straight. There we go. Okay. So there's those. And then these I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I still don't know which ones I'm using for the inside cover and all that. So these are going to stay 12 by 12 until I get to that point. And I'm not going to do it on camera, but I'm going to do the same thing with this sheet here. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to cut all of the little edges off. I might leave the edges on these two sides just because it really doesn't matter. But I'll pull this in so that it's the 7 3/4 for my sheets. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to cut this little section off. I'm going to measure down 7 and see where I want it. You know, if I want to have this top part in there, because that would give me more flowers, which is probably what I'll do. So I'll probably measure from here over, cut this section off. Now, cutting all of these pages like I've done, I have all of these. Now these papers were a little shorter, so but I can still use these. But how cute is that going to be as a little book of some kind? So going to keep that in mind. And the other thing with this is I am going to add 3/8 of an inch on both sides, because I'm actually going to do tabs on this paper. And so then my cover for my book, the edges will go out at least 3/8 of an inch to be able to cover up the tabs so that they don't get damaged. And that's about it. So get all your papers cut and then come on back. Okay, so I've got all my papers cut, and except for my 3 12 by 12s that I have not doing yet, and I folded everything. So if you have gone ahead and done that, now I'm going to show you, oh, and I just took a ruler and opened the ends of the staples. Those metal things. And I'm going to, let me put this on here to keep this straight, but I'm going to go ahead and take those out just because eventually that's going to have to get all moved out of there anyway. Okay, so that's done. Now what I'm going to show you is I want to make tabs on both ends of these, and that's going to be through my book how I'm going to have my 4 different sections, and then my calendar is just going to go in the front. Now, I have a envelope punch board, which you can make your tabs, file folder tabs with this. If you don't have one of these, you can just take a file folder. And now my file folder, this tab, this punch board makes these tabs 3/8 of an inch. So I added 3/8 of an inch to both sides of what I normally needed, so that I will have room to have a tab. This one just happens to be from this line 3/8 of an inch. So it just happens to be the exact same. But all you would do is, whether you want to, I mean, this one is a really long one. You can find some of the other tabs. This is the first one I grabbed. But you would just place it on wherever it is you wanted it, and you would make your little line with a pencil and then cut it off. Okay? But since I have one of these. I'm going to do this, and basically all you do, see my first one, I am going to, let me get closer. Let me get a close-up here. So I've moved my camera, and I keep forgetting that I've moved my camera. Okay, so let me move this out of the way so I can get, now the first one, you line this up just like that, right along the inside edge of this piece here. So you line that up, make sure it is against the ledge here, and you punch, and that gives you your first, where am I? That gives you your first cut. Okay, and then I'm going to go over, because I want this to be 2 7/8 inches long. So I'm lining this up with the 2 7/8. Right like that, lining the edge up with my 2 7/8. You know, I mean as close as I can get. So right there, and then I'm going to make sure that my page is against my ledge, and I'm going to punch. And then I'm going to just take and cut this part off, because that part I don't need. And that will leave me a nice tab. Oh, wait a minute, sorry. I will cut this part off right from the lowest part of this all the way over, and then that will leave me with my tab. So on this one, so I've just kind of flipped it. So I'm going to use the tab on this side for this one. So I'm going to do a tab here. So I flipped it over and then flipped it that way. Let me do that again. I'm going to use this tab, and I'm going to, hold on, let me back it back out again. Whoops, wrong way. Okay. I'm going to use this tab here, and I want to use a tab, I want a tab over here. So it'll go high, low, and then the other one will go the opposite direction, I believe. Let's see. If I put both of these, if I do, okay. No, so let's do both of these high, and if I do both of these low, at some point they're going to be high, low, and then, no, high, low, low, high. So it'll go high, low, high, low. I think so. You know what? It's for me. I'm not all that worried about it. But you may want to think about it when you're doing it. But I am going to do one high and one low. So I want to work on this side now. And again, I'm going to drop it right in here so that it lines up right on the end. Make sure I've got my paper all the way up against that and push. I'm going to go out to 2 7/8 and push again. And then I'm going to cut off from here all the way across, and from here all the way across. And that's going to give me my 2 tabs. Let me show you real quick on the cutter how you line this up. Let's see. Oops. Can I get this? There we go. Okay. Okay. So, if you see my, here is my cutting right in here, this little part that looks gray. And so I'm going to line this right up so that it's in the center. I'm going to line it right up so it's in the center of that. Right where that, right where the blade cuts. And I'm going to go until and there we go. I didn't get it quite low enough, so you know, it's all knowing your let me just trim that little lip off right there. There we go. Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay, so, and then on this one, I flipped it over and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to get it right where the blade is going to cut into and there we go. And I'm going to, where is it? I got just a little nip on the end of that, and I'm just going to cut that off. Okay, so you pull this back out now so you can see. So now I have this, and then I'm going to fold it in half, and I will end up having, put this out of the way, and I'm going to do it corner to corner. Make sure I've got it on all on the edge. There we go. That didn't hold that down very well. There we go. Okay, so there we go. And then, you know, like this section will be inside here. And of course that's going to be a lot to be stuck in there. I'm going to do this section. And so I will have tabs. They're going to be stuck inside each other, but you get the idea. And then I'll have tabs for each section that I'm going to be working on. And again, I told you, and I will be putting these inside each other and cutting the edges off, because I want this to kind of all be nice and straight. And the more that you put in, the more that you I'm going to push this all up against the lip there, and I'm going to line this outside edge up with my cutting, where my cutting blade's going to be. Let's see. That was quite a bit there to cut. And I think it's done all right. It just got stuck in there. That's why I was wondering. That stuck in my cutter, in the little ledge where the blade goes. Okay. And then that will get stuck in there. And you see when you cut the edges down, it fits right in there. No problem. Everything looks very nice and professional. Ha! Yeah, you know. Okay, so I'm going to do the other one exactly like this. And I'm going to put all my pages in and cut off the ends. And I think then we'll be ready to sew. Get it done, and let's move on. Okay, before you cut, I just wanted to say really quickly, add all your little pages in to the book where you want them, and then put your paper in and cut your straight line. So make sure you have added all your little papers in first before you cut. So you only have to do it once. Instead of like me, that didn't think about it until afterwards and had to cut them twice. Oh well. See you in a minute. Okay, so I have this zoomed up really, really close so that you can see what I'm doing next. Now I have all of my, I can barely get them in here because it's so close. I have all of my different sections, and I've got them binder clipped together once I had them exactly the way I wanted them. I did that so that I knew everything was lined up the way I needed it lined up and all of that, okay? So, but now I'm going to use this section here to kind of find out, because usually I take it at this point, now that I have everything folded the way I want it folded, without these in it, and I figure out how wide my spine needs to be. So I'm going to show you using this and this end of my bundle how I do that. So I basically, let me show you here, make sure we're in. I basically kind of, now again, I'm sorry, the binder clips are in there, so it's kind of making it not work just right. But normally, I take all of my pieces and parts and I just lightly put them together. And I don't squeeze them. I don't squeeze them like this, because then as soon as you start to put anything in there, do you see what happens with your, that's exactly what happens. Once you squeeze it like that, everything flows by. If you don't squeeze, it doesn't do that, okay? So I just lightly put things together. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm going to, see, you can't. Okay, I'm going to do it this way so that you can kind of, I'm going to lightly put these together. I'm going to take these two out because they're, or no, I'm just going to flip them that way. Make sure I'm in frame. I'm going to get these all lined up on the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to lightly push them together. They keep moving out because of there we go. Okay. I'm lightly pushing them together. And now I've pushed everything out so you can't really see it. So by lightly pushing everything together, making sure that it's all kind of lining up correctly. If you can see that, I'm at about an inch, which I'm cool with. If I pinch it all really hard together, I could pinch it all in a ½ an inch. And I kind of find that doubling it when you pinch it, when you pinch all of it together, if you double that amount, you're pretty good, because that's going to give it breathing space. Okay, so that's how I kind of figure out how big my spine is going to be. So it's just playing around with the spacing of everything and making sure that everything's going to have room to be you know, to be in there properly. And I really don't want it to be much larger than an inch anyway, so because I think an inch is plenty. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a 1-inch spine. We're going to measure whatever your measurement was for your page plus your 3/8. If you're going to have tabs, plus your 3/8 is what I'm going to do, plus a little. So my measurement is, let's see here, 4 3/8. 1, 2, well, not really. 1, 2. See, that's 1, 2. It's 1/8, that's 2/8, that's 3/8. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16. But, you know, whatever. I'm going to make mine at 4 3/8. I'm just adding basically 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, just about 1/8 of an inch is what I'm adding to this measurement, because you're also going to, you know, I'm going to be cutting this, and these are going to be in 3 pieces, so there's going to be a little added in the whole workings of the book. Okay, so I'm going to be taking this apart, and this end I never use, but I still try and not get bends in these two while I'm taking this apart. Sometimes if you, let's see, I've got a spatula here. Sometimes if you take that and run it through, it helps. Big thing is just not to really, I don't like to fold. I don't like to get bends and folds in these until, you know, I mean, once I've got the card stuck on, I'm not worried about it, but, and get it in place. So I'm just going to cut all of these pieces and parts off. I definitely have, this is 4 1/2. So once I get things cut off, 4 3/8, it's going to be very close, so I'm going to be really careful with that. Now for my length, for how high the book is going to be, it's 6 1/16. And I'm going to just add, let's see, if I put it right about there, I'm going to make it at 6 1/4. So basically I'm adding 3/16 to it. I try not to do 16ths for you guys. I need to do a whole how to read your ruler. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to do this at 6 1/4, and I'm going to do this at 4 3/8. So I'm going to write that down on my paper here. 4 3/8 by 6 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut everything, and then this is going to be 1 inch by 6 1/4. Okay, all right, so I'm going to get all of that cut, and I'll be back. Okay, now if I were going to sell these or whatever, I would not have used this with the hole in it, but since it's just for me, all I did was just kind of trace around on another piece of, you know, what I had left, and I cut it out, and I'm just going to place it. It's not a perfect fit, but that's okay too. I'm just placing it in here. I'm just going to use a little piece of tape and just put it over the top. Like this, and on this side. Oh, well, that'll work. There we go. So, there. And now, I also want to remind you, for mine anyway, this is a horizontal, so it's going to come around like this. So think about, if you are doing it this way, the paper is going to come around here. instead of, you know, doing it this way, I'm having it come this way. So this is going to be my top up here, this, and then this, all right? So I just wanted to remind you that, you know, it's a little different. So all I'm going to do now is set this up and get ready. I'm going to cut off the excess. I'm going to have about a ½ an inch because I don't want to lose much of this. Because normally I'd go 3/4 of an inch, but I'm just going to do about a ½ an inch. And because, like I said, I want this to be my front. So I'm going to take my Tim Holtz ruler, and I have to use this side. I'm going to line up my ½ an inch line all the way down, and a sharp pencil helps, and I don't think I have, yeah, wait a minute, right here. So, and I'm going to put that right at the edge and just drag it down. So there's my ½ inch on that side, and then I'm going to flip this around so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to line up all the way up and down on this side and do a ½ inch there. So now this will give me, again, this is my front, this will give me to be able to line up my paper, my front and back covers with this, okay? And I am going to do approximately not quite a ¼ of an inch because you know, these are super thin. I usually do it double what my thickness is, and I mean that might be a 32nd, which means you'd do it a 1/16 of an inch, but I'm going to do it more than that. Probably about an 1/8 of an inch separating the front and backs to my spine, and I'm going to put glue here and lay them down. So let me get all of my stuff and I'll be right back.